Heads, welcome to another episode of Sharing Our Pairings. This is Sharing Our Pairings, episode 26, Smoking Monk of Esteli, Belgian Triple. I don't know how you spell triple, but it's L-E or E-L. I think the Belgians spell it E-L, but whatever. We're just going to roll with it. We're broadcasting live around the world, whether you're listening to us on our podcast, our windy podcast tonight, whether you're listening to us live on YouTube, live on Cigar Federation, appreciate you tuning in, or if you're listening on our... Woo! Gonna get a little winded tonight. I'm your host, John the Cigar Surgeon, sponsored by Cigar.com, and I'm here, as always, with my co-host, Robbie Ross. Rob, what's going on, brother?
I'm in a much more stable environment than you are. It's about 78 degrees and no wind, chill factor to speak of. But things are good. It's a beautiful day. I'm ready to get into some of these triples. I don't know much about triples, and every bottle I have spells it with EL, but the cigar was called the Belgian Triple LE. Anyway, no, I'm looking forward to it. I went down to my local spot, the Monument Liquors here in. I guess that's considered what? Is that considered Pleasant Hill or Concord? I think it's Concord. Anyway. And I got some expert advice from one of the guys there, and I actually didn't catch his name. So I'm excited to do some pairing, and I hope that you don't blow away.
Me too, man. Like this is some janky stuff tonight, but whatever. We're just gonna roll with it. Apparently, my cigar is gonna go ahead and ash itself. I mean, we're just whatever, sharing our pairings. So I thought it was interesting that one of the beers that we're looking at, because we don't really plan our beer selections in advance. We just kind of go with what's pairing up with the show. I thought it was interesting that we both ended up picking the Westmalle, and of course me, I like to do tons of research, and I did a bunch of research, and it turns out it's probably a good thing that we picked that beer since they are essentially the Trappist Abbey that started the Belgian Triple. Oh. So it would have been pretty embarrassing, I think, to have a Belgian Triple show and not have essentially the beer that started it. And now it's snowing, so this is good times. We're just coming up aces.
Let's get started. Would like to welcome everyone tuning in on the new Cigar Federation app. Be sure to go ahead and download that onto your Android or iPhone devices, free app. You can tune into all the live shows. You can post status updates, photos to the site, everything. So that's all there for you. So thanks to everybody who's tuning in there. John's muted, so I'm going to go ahead and jump in with my first beer, and we'll get this party started. The first one I'm going with, and like I said, I got some expert advice. One of the beers I picked out on my own because I'm a big boy. But the others, I went in and I just asked the guy. I said, hey, I need some triples because I'm pairing them with cigars. And he looked at me like I was crazy. And I said, well, hey, the company does this, and they got it right with the Hefeweizen and the IPA, so I'm assuming they're going to get it right here.
Got to trust them.
And he's like, yeah, I would think you'd pair more with a stout or a porter. I said, well, it's funny. We could talk about this all day. Anyway, so he pointed me in the direction, and the Westmalle, we're going to do that one second. That was the first one he grabbed, and he said, "This is like the standard." So that was why I picked it. And I tried to look up on my phone, but I couldn't get good service in there, so I couldn't pull up what photo you had. So I didn't know which ones you had. Anyway, so the first one I'm going here is the Triple Carmelet or Carmelet. I'm not exactly sure how to say that, but I'm going to go with Carmelet just because that feels right. It's a product of Belgium. This is from their website is bestbelgianspecialbeers.be, and if you pull up their site for the Triple Carmelet, you're going to get some pretty interesting music. But they give you some information about the. It's actually a pretty cool little website. Information about it. This is authentic recipe from 1679, which is just a little bit older than John.
Damn, son.
Yeah. Over 300 years ago, it uses 3 kinds of grain, wheat, oats, and barley. The name Triple Carmelet refers to both its origin and its bottle refermentation, beg your pardon, I can't read. Blah, blah, blah. They give you some pouring notes and how to how to smell it and everything. You know, it's kind of a golden brown color, as you guys can see. Not a golden brown, just a golden yellow. A little bit cloudy. Let's see, for the on the nose, you're going to get some hints of vanilla with citrus aromas, which I would actually agree with. Taste, Triple Carmelet is not only the lightest and freshest of wheat, uses not only the lightest and freshest of wheat, but also the creaminess of the oats together with the spicy, lemony, almost, wow, quinine?
Yeah, quinine.
What the hell does that mean?
You know, quinine is man, it's like this bitter, astringent thing, and
Is that flavor that I taste in all the saisons that I don't like?
Yes, I think pretty sure that's the flavor you do not like.
Oh, so there's a word for that. I just call it funk. Okay, well, anyway, so that's what I'm starting with. I snuck in a few sips beforehand.
Hell yeah, you did.
These are pretty nice beers. I mean, this is kind of along the lines of a Hefeweizen, really, for me, in the style. It's lighter, but it actually feels heavier in the belly. It's got some nice bright notes to it, some of that citrusy notes, and the quinine, or whatever the hell that word is. But anyway, I'm going to let John talk before he freezes.
Yeah, so, I mean, it's a little chilly here, but I'm more worried about being buried under a couple inches of snow. You know, this is how we roll in Canada. It's 68 degrees one day and 32 degrees the next, but whatever. So we're going to go with my old standby from Unibrow, who we've featured on the show before, Le Fin de Mont. Pretty sure that everything they make is awesome. Now, I've got a glass here from another distillery, but it is from Quebec, so I feel like that's not cheating. You can see similar color, maybe a little bit darker amber than Rob's. Like I said, we've featured Unibrow on the show before, but for those who haven't watched our back episodes, and you really should, they came up with the idea for the brewery in 1990, merged with Unibrow, so they bought out a sort of underperforming brewery in 1990. They merged with Unibrow in 1992, partnered with a Belgian brewer later in that year, moved on to a new facility in 93. They had a Belgian brewmaster who was trained in Belgian sort of abbey techniques, joined them in 98, so lots of movement. And then they didn't actually start any bottom fermented products, so like, you know, lagers and ales until 1998 to 2000. So they were just doing, you know, this style of beer for a very long time before they got into the, you know, what you would consider traditional beer. And then Sleeman, I don't know if you know Sleeman. Sleeman's a huge drink company. They bought and merged with Unibrow in 2004. And then interestingly enough, in 2006, they bought out Sapporo International. For those who know Sapporo, Japan's oldest brewery, and they bought them out.
Wow.
So this bad boy has been brewed since 1994, so it's got a little bit of history, but not 200 years of history, but it's got a little bit of history. These are heaters. This is a 9%. So,
holy monkey!
Yeah.
I didn't even give you guys that. Wow, mine's actually really high too.
Mm-hmm. We'll get into that because, I mean, these are, you talk about being Hefeweizen, that actually factors into what these are, and these were made as a reaction to the sort of Hefeweizen light beers that were dominating Europe at the time. And so they said, look, we're going to come out with something different. We're going to come out with sort of a counter beer. I mean, you know, we talk about the citrusy notes, and the Le Fin de Mont definitely has some citrusy notes, but it's also very yeasty. Like, I mean, it's like sourdough bread in a glass, and at 9% ABV, I mean, this is a heater. Like, this is up into the porter, well, really the stout region. But that's what they wanted. That
blows me away, man.
Yeah.
And I'm looking at all of them, and it's like they're huge. And I don't know what I was thinking, but I looked at one, and I could have swore it said 6.5%. And I'm thinking, okay, it's a standard. That's a little bit high for, you know, like a standard style beer, but it's, you know, whatever. But I'm looking at this, the Triple Carmelet, and it is 8.4, and that's the lowest alcohol by volume of all mine. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, but this is like,
no.
You're mind blown.
Yeah, so I mean again, that's kind of that was the purpose of these beers. Like, they're intended to be big, huge beers that have Hefeweizen character, but they're very strong ales with a very yeasty, top fermented, citrusy quality to them. So again, because they're Belgian ale, they're top fermented. The Unibrow has 5.5 SRMs, and I know you guys have been paying attention to what an SRM is. I totally forgot what SRM is, but that is called the standard reference model for color. So 5.5, to give you a sense, a stout is 29. A imperial stout is 79. So these are very, very light. I mean, this is approaching, and this is kind of where we would expect them in the light, weedy Hefeweizen area, and they are. So far so good. This, I mean, I love Unibrow. You've had Unibrow before. You've enjoyed Unibrow. Tasty beer. The term Belgian triple. So just to give our listeners a little bit of history there, it originated in what was at the time called Low Countries, which is now referred to the Netherlands and Belgian region, which is obviously why they call them Belgian triples. And I'm going to take a drink because it's so good.
Yeah, it's funny. I was just in the chat room. You guys probably heard me typing because I wasn't smart enough to mute my microphone. But I'm so glad that John does his research, because I don't. I've made this abundantly clear, and it's almost become like a badge of stupid honor for me at this point, because if I showed up one week and I was like, well, Bloods, and then I start breaking everything down, you guys wouldn't take me seriously, I don't think. So I play the fool on this show, and it's actually kind of a fun role to play. The flavors on this triple Carmelet are really, really good. And when you say it's like sourdough in a bowl, like that is really, or in a glass, because you could have a sourdough bowl with some clam chowder in it, which is also
yeah,
really good. You had some of that when you were in San Francisco, yeah?
Yeah, I probably gained like 5 or 10 pounds in San Francisco just from the food. It was fantastic. Oh, and just, I know this isn't going to mean anything to our podcast listeners, but check it out. A little souvenir from the San Francisco area.
What is it? Oh, that's your bottle opener?
That's my bottle opener.
Where's it from?
I also have a hat. I don't know. I just walked into some...
Oh, it just says it's like San Francisco on it?
Yeah, it's got the bridge and stuff.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Nice. The touristy stuff in the city is kind of fun.
Touristy stuff.
That's fun. But yeah, I'm blown away by the fact that these beers have such a high alcohol content. Excuse me. And I've got 3 of them going here, so it's going to be a fun night. There's a sourness to it, but it's not like a sour. There's some citrusy notes to it. There's a ton of yeast and bread notes to it. In a way, it's kind of overpowering the cigar, but I'm not mad about that. I'm really enjoying the beer. I'm enjoying the beer more so than the cigar at this point.
Well, I think because we really haven't talked about the cigar up at this point, but Cigar.com lists the Belgian Triple cigar, so Smoking Monk Belgian Triple, as a medium to full-bodied with a rich, complex tobacco flavor and a spicy finish. I'm not really getting a lot of spicy finish. I would more describe it as maybe a savory toasted nuttiness. And I think that's probably the right way to go, because you've got, the Belgian ale has that bread, that sweet, citrusy character, and I think a nuttiness kind of naturally goes with that. Initially, I can't say that it's blowing me away compared to the IPA, which I think still is my favorite, my reigning champion, which again blows me away. It's crazy, but hey, it was fantastic. So I mean, we're only about an inch into this. It's good. It's probably better than the Hefeweizen, and maybe that's because the Belgian triple ale is so good, and maybe it's because the cigar is better. But the pairing so far is slowly working its way into number 2 for me.
Yeah, it's as you're talking about the characteristics of the cigar. I'm getting that nuttiness, and it's kind of got a buttery texture to it. And there's definitely a nice aroma to the cigar. Again, I don't know if it's infused or not. It doesn't taste like it. But there is a really nice aroma to it. So the room note, which normally we would talk about that with pipes, the room note is pretty nice.
Look at you dropping pipe knowledge. Gonna have to call you a pipe not so dummy soon.
I'll go with mild pipe terminology for 200, Alex. I lost my train of thought. Oh man.
We're not even a beer in here on sharing our
No, it's
pairings, and we're
not.
getting
No,
trusted.
it's. I mean, we're still good. Like I've taken a few sips, but I'm kind of blown away. Like I think I had a very warped vision of what a Belgian triple was, and I am very pleasantly surprised uh, with this beer so far. And it's not. I was confusing it with something else.
Yeah, I mean I mean I would almost call it a session beer. That is, you have one of these. I mean it's kind of similar to an IPA. You're not going to pound back 3 IPAs. You can have one IPA and you're going to be satisfied. The same is true of a Belgian ale. You can have one and you're going to be satisfied. You're not really going to sit down with three like we're doing today because we're crazy, sitting down with three different kinds of Belgian ales, all at 8.5, 9%, and smoking a cigar with it. You're going to pick one and you're going to pair it. And that's fine because it'll completely satisfy you. Your belly's going to be full, your palate's going to be satisfied. I mean, it's a good combination. Interestingly enough, and this blew me away. Um, the most, uh, oh, the most common type of Belgian beer in North America is in fact the Belgian ale, the Belgian triple ale, which also kind of surprised me because I would have figured it maybe a Dunkel or a Double or any of the other styles, but this is in North America by far, like it's not even close, the most popular beer.
Um, I had a point that I wanted to make a second ago. Oh, when you were talking about this being a session beer, which I never really knew what that term meant. I know that there's like a brand name called Session, but or at least I think it is. So I can see it in like a red, black, and white. But I'll call these beers sneaky filling and sneaky strong because I didn't know that. I mean, I went into this blind. I had no idea that these were 10% alcohol by volume, but they're sneaky filling in the way that those Hefeweizens are sneaky filling. Where
Yep.
you're drinking a lighter beer, you look at it like, oh, hey, it's fine. It's like if you get a cigar that's got a lighter Habano wrapper on it. You look at it, you think, oh, this is going to be mild, this is going to be
Yep.
no big deal, and then it kicks your ass.
Yep.
So I kind of equate these to that. You look at them, and they're non-threatening. They're not big, they're not dark. Even when you sip on them, they're not all that heavy. But as you start getting through, that yeast starts settling in the belly a little bit. You start to fill up, and in a way, it's a good thing because that alcohol content will come up and bite you if you're not paying attention.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, if these were super not filling, I mean, I could absolutely pound one of these and just go to town. But like I'm like, I mean, I guess I've kind of done half my glass of the Le Fin de Mont, but I'm full. Like literally, I haven't eaten dinner and I'm full. I don't know how I'm gonna continue.
Well, you can go ahead and mute it and then just let out a big burp. You'll be fine.
Yeah, exactly.
Want to give a quick shout out to a couple guys watching. Bob Dog, he comes out for every one of our shows, as far as I can tell. Every time that we've got a show and we're live and I'm looking at the chat room, Bob Dog is always in there and commenting. So Bob, thank you for the support. And Doug is watching as well. He says that he enjoys hearing the background on the particular styles of brewing or particular styles of beer. It kind of helps him figure out why he likes these. If it's a particular beer, it helps him figure out why he likes it. So that's a compliment to you, John, because I provide absolutely no background at all. I'm just here for comic relief. But yeah, I'm enjoying the cigar, and the flavors of the cigar are building as we go. That nuttiness. There is a little bit of a mild, I'd call it a white spice on the retro hail, but it's got kind of a buttery texture to it. That I'm enjoying, and it really is. It's offsetting the citrus flavors in the beer, and that yeast just kind of complements the things that the cigar is doing. As I like to say, they're playing together really nicely.
Just a reminder to our audience that you're listening to Sharing Our Pairings, episode 26, live on cigarfederation.com. This is Smoking Monk of Esteli Belgian Triple, sponsored by cigar.com. Tonight we are going to have some giveaways. I've got some giveaways planned for our podcast listeners. We didn't really talk about that. Just wanted to kind of sneak it up on you, but I'm going to inject a phrase that pays for our podcast listeners. So for all you sneaky weasels out there, you will not be able to watch live and win my contest. If you want to win, you're going to have to listen to the whole dang thing to get that phrase that pays, because we appreciate our podcast listeners. So I'm going to have 2 full 5-pack samplers to send out, and then I'm going to have kind of a grab bag of a 4-pack, and these are all of the so both the 5-packs are going to be samplers of the entire range. The 4-pack's going to be for random individual cigars of the range, but we're going to give those away.
Nice. I'm gonna, and as I said last week, I'm gonna pick a couple of live winners. I don't know how I'm gonna do it. There will probably be some Smoking Monks in the prize packs that I give away, but I've spread the wealth of some of these 5-packs that I got with some of the mods here on Cigar Federation and a couple of buddies who like the beer. So I might not be able to give you all. Well, I definitely can't give you all 5, but I might sneak 1 or 2 of them in there. For example, this is my last triple. And I opened the box, and there's only 1 left. I'm like, what happened to the other 4? But this is the only one I've got left. So I'll pick a couple winners tonight. I'll pick a couple winners tonight and just send them something out of the Double R treasure trove that is full of all kinds of random stuff. Who knows what you're going to get?
So I think the way that I'm going to do my giveaway, and this is for our podcast listeners. So again, you're going to need the phrase that pays, very important. Doesn't matter whether it's in the subject or in the body of the email, but you have to give me the phrase that pays. It's going to be John, John, it's the easiest name in the world, at cigarfederation.com. You're going to email me between tonight, which is Wednesday, April 1st, April Fools, or something, and our next show, where I'm going to do the live drawing on our show. And I'm just going to pick whoever gets the phrase that pays correctly. I'm going to put you in a spreadsheet. I'm going to pick randomly. I'm going to pick 3 winners, and we'll announce those winners on our next show, which I think is on April the 7th, a Tuesday, which is an unusual day, but we had to move some things around because it's baseball season, son.
Yeah, I contacted the commissioner's office and some of my folks in the front office at the San Francisco Giants, and they don't seem to care if their night games interrupt my sharing our pairings shows. So, and you guys are going to notice this with sharing our pairings, pipe dummies, and cigar chat moving forward as we go through April, May, June, July, August, September, and hopefully October again. Who knows? The dates are going to be a little bit fluid, but let's. I'm just going to pick random winners, so we'll see. We'll get there. If anybody can figure out where I can get a sweet beanie like John's, then that's an instant winner right there.
Instant winner.
You can find that beanie for me. You don't have to buy it. Just tell me where I can buy it, and that you will be a winner. So I'm digging this triple Carmelet, but you're freezing your baguettes off there because it's snowing. So maybe we should move on to the West Mall, huh?
Yeah, let's do it up. I don't know if you can tell, but I am just getting pounded by snow here. It's actually pretty funny. I'm gonna have to maybe turn it over to you for a minute or two and grab a blanket for my laptop or something, because it is coming down in spades. So hopefully you can dance like a monkey for 2 or 3 minutes here. We're gonna do up the West Mall triple next. This is kind of the beer that started it all. I'll be going into some more details in a minute here.
Yeah, I'll
show you how.
Yeah, go do.
But look at that! Look at that! So delicious, so tasty.
It's got a huge heat.
Huge heat. But I'm going to turn it over to you, Rob.
All right. So this wasn't planned, but I'm just gonna.
Surprise!
I'm just gonna roll with it. So we're going with the West Mall, the Trappist Ale. I don't know what the hell a Trappist is. Bottle is oddly enough 11.2 ounces. 9.5% alcohol by volume. That just blows me away. Product of Belgium. And there, it's funny. This is the only beer, no, not the only beer, but the only beer that we talked about on this show that each bottle gives you a diagram of how to pour it. And if you pour it too fast or if you pour it too slow, you're just going to jack it up, apparently. And I do not have the right style of glass. I went with kind of a stemless wine glass, which is, I figured, better than a Pilsner or a Stein. So. As you can see, this one's a little bit, well, maybe you can't see it, but this one's a little bit darker in color and definitely a bit more cloudy than the Carmelet. Maybe if I'm holding, this is the Carmelet here on my left. You can see it's a little bit, this is a little bit more opaque. Pull up the website here. For over 200 years they've been making this. It's, let's see, history, types of beer, the triple is what I want. So let's get some info on the triple.
Got some info on the triple if you want. I'm back.
You do. I'm going to say that it is remarkable that the beer matures differently in larger bottles. Apparently, if you get a bigger bottle, and you want to hang on to it because the bottles come in different sizes.
That's right.
The bigger the bottle, the better. Fruity aromas the fruity aroma is somewhat softer and riper when you go with a larger bottle, and the beer gets a light touch of vanilla. Interesting. So I'm not going to get any of that because I just went with a regular size bottle. But now that John's back, I'm going to stop flaunting my ignorance and let him talk.
Yeah, and sorry for our audience. I'm getting snowed out here. I was hoping to find a handy umbrella, but no luck, so I'm just going to suck it up and carry on. So Westmalle Abbey was founded in 1802. They became a Trappist monastery in 1836. The Trappist monk history actually goes back hundreds and hundreds of years, back to the 1600s. Actually, pardon me, even further than that before. Anyways, we'll talk about that in a minute. But they first started selling their beer in 1856. So this is, and we kind of talked about this at the beginning of the show, this is kind of the beer that started it all. Like, this is the beer that really started the Belgian triple as we know it today. Their demand continued to increase. So throughout the years, they've continued to expand their facilities. In 1930, they added a brew hall, a yeast room, and a workshop. In 1956, they added a new bottling plant. In 1968, they added a new water treatment plant. So interestingly enough, they were one of the first breweries to have their own standalone water treatment facility, and this is like long before this was ever legislated, which apparently it is today. You have to have your own water treatment facility if you're a brewery, so that's kind of interesting. Added a computer-controlled brewing hall in 1991, and then again had to upgrade their bottling facility in 2000 because the demand was so much. What's interesting about this, and I think we talked about this on perhaps one or more of our Hefeweizens, is that the beer actually undergoes a second fermentation in the bottle. So you're talking about the larger bottle, I think it's a 70 centiliter metric system, is going to be different than the 33 centiliter, which is this bottle right here, this sort of standard bottle. They're going to be different tastes because the yeast is going to react differently in the bottle. It's going to undergo different fermentation in the bottle because of the space and the size. This is another heater. It's 9.5%, so it's a big boy, and it is known as the mother of all triples. That is literally what the industry calls this beer, is the mother of all triples. And they recommend doing this in a because I was looking up some of the glassware, and they recommend doing this in a tulip glass. Now, unfortunately, I don't have tulip glasses because I'm in the midst of trying to move, so I couldn't go crazy, but this is as close as I could get. And the reason they do this is so you can get this sort of luxurious, wonderful head, and you can see, like, just a huge foamy head.
Giggity.
Huge head. It's giant.
It's like an orange and a toothpick.
And it's like a watermelon. Yep.
No, keep going.
All right. And, I mean, the whole point of this is it's supposed to give you a lot more of the aromatic influence. So, you know, we talked about in the whiskey why a Glencairn glass is so important to the nosing and the tasting, and this is very much true of the beer. The shape and the size of the glass is going to determine the aromatics, and when you're talking about a Belgian triple, where they go to such great lengths to make sure the aromatics are a big quality of that beer, it's also important the type of glass. So again, I kind of have an intermediate glass, so it's not bad, and you know it's definitely that sort of bread yeasty quality and the citrusy quality is coming through in spades. And I'm going to take a sip here and let Rob take over for a minute.
I've been lucky enough to take a few sips while John was dropping his knowledge, and I have nothing near a tulip glass. This is the best I could do. It's definitely got that yeasty finish. That's for sure. It's got a fair amount of citrus on the nose, but I don't get a lot of citrus on the tongue. I don't really taste a lot of it. What I was getting, and maybe this was just because my palate was changing, I took a few sips of water in between, but I got a lot of vanilla off of it on the first few sips. But as I go on, the vanilla is kind of dying away, which is unfortunate. I really liked that. But the vanilla is kind of giving way, to that yeasty, that sourdough, that sourdough kind of flavor. And I'm in California. I'm spoiled. We get awesome sourdough bread here all the time. And now I wish it was a little bit cold so I could go get a sourdough bread bowl and put some chowder in it.
Oh, yeah.
Maybe I'll do it anyway. But this is the styles between these two are a little bit different to me. Between the two that I've had, the triple Carmelet to me was lighter. It was brighter. This is a bit more down and dirty, a little bit more aggressive, I would say. Maybe the flavor is really coating my palate. It's overpowering the cigar, as you know, right now. But as we saw with the Carmelet, that changed. It was overpowering the cigar at the beginning. But as my palate got used to the beer, the two played together pretty nicely. But this feels, if I were sipping this blind and somebody said this is 9.5% or whatever it is, I'd believe them. But in that with the triple Carmelet, I'd say you got to be kidding me. There's no way that's 9% alcohol.
Yeah, I mean I think that the interesting thing about this beer is the word I would really use here is balanced. I mean, you're talking about when you compare this maybe an ABV to a stout. I mean, a stout, when you have a 9% stout, you're like, oh boy, like this is a big bad boy in your face, punch you in the mouth beer. And when you have, even with this this Westmalle, which I'm gonna grab and fill with snow as it rains down on me, even with this Westmalle, which is a big bad boy, I mean, it's very complex and it's very full body, but 9.5%, I don't know. It doesn't strike me as 9.5%.
You know what I'm what I'm doing is what a lot of cigar smokers do, is they equate strength of flavor with the strength of the cigar.
Right.
And I think that I'm making that mistake here. It's a much more, and when I listen to you explain it, it is a much more full-bodied beer than the Carmelet that I was tasting. So to have it be more full-bodied and more palate coating, it wouldn't surprise me if it had more alcohol in it. So I guess I see your point.
But I hear what you're saying.
Yeah, I think we're kind of on the same page. I was just making a bit of a. You got people bringing deliveries now.
Yeah, getting a towel handoff so I can mop up my laptop.
If you need to go get an umbrella or whatever you need to do, I can pretend like I know what I'm talking about for a while.
It's all good. That's just how we roll here.
No, it's funny. I mean, to me, these two beers, are very different. They still have that same yeast base, that doughy bread flavor that's in there at the bottom of the kind of the crux of everything, but it's what's above that, the flavor that's above that. With the Carmelet, it was more bright. It was more fruity. With this, it's like a thicker. There's that vanilla is still there, but the butteriness of the cigar, I don't know if it really jives for me. I don't know. I mean, I'm curious to see what you think, John.
Well, yeah, I see what you're saying. I mean, we were kind of going to this, and I mean, based on the first pairing, I mean, I was actually pretty happy with it. But I think you're right that we're talking about the mother of all beer, the mother of all Belgian triple ales here, and it's a big beer. And as I enjoy the cigar and I sip the beer, which I'm gonna do right now, I almost, and this is a weird thing to say, but I almost think the beer runs over the cigar, which is not at all what I would expect. I mean, we're not talking about stouts and porters, and yet, it's almost just too full body for the cigar. And I think, okay, well, if I wasn't going to pair it with a Belgian triple ale cigar, what would I pair it with? And I'm honestly at a bit of a loss, because this is one of those really tough pairings where you've got something that has a lot of character, and it's really tough to pair that with something else without, either diminishing the cigar or diminishing the beer.
Yeah, I would I would agree. I don't remember what the recommended pairings were for this cigar.
Oh yeah, you had that. They had that
little,
awesome list they sent out.
That little list, yeah. And I know I sent it to you a while ago, but that was before our first show, and this is a month and a half later. I don't remember what their suggested pairing was, but I would be surprised if this beer was on the list. The Carmelet, loved it, and I don't know how common that beer is, if it's readily available to everybody. If you've got that in your reach and you're interested in triples, I would give that a shot. I mean, obviously the the West Mall is kind of the standard, and everybody seems to agree on that. So maybe the standard isn't necessarily in my wheelhouse. I think I would like this beer better on its own. It is kind of running over the cigar a little bit. The finish that I get from the beer and the finish that I get from the cigar go well together, but everything in between, not so much.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the thing about sharing our pairings is, we're here to experiment and try different stuff, and sometimes stuff's going to work and sometimes stuff's not going to work. And I think, I love this beer, and I'm actually really enjoying the cigar, but in terms of pairing them together, curiously enough, so far I would go with the Le Fin de Mont. I think that was the better pairing. The beer didn't overpower the cigar didn't overpower the beer. They really complemented each other well. And I mean, that's just how it goes. So, if you're into Belgian triples, I'd say you got to pick up this West Mall triple because the notes they say it's a complex beer with fruity aroma and nuanced hop scent, soft and creamy, with a bitter touch carried by the fruity aroma. And I mean, all of that says big beer, and it is. It's a big beer. But again, we really struggle, and maybe we'll get into this in some of the heavier whiskey shows we do when we start to get into like Islay whiskeys and stuff like that, where it becomes a little bit challenging to pair something that's full-bodied in flavor with something else from the cigar spectrum.
Yeah, we actually got a comment here from Doug, and this I'm going to assume that Doug's correct here. I wouldn't know if this is right or not, but he said it with confidence, so I'm going to go with it. He says the fact that he said this could have something to do with the fact that this beer was originally created to be drank as a meal, hence the full body that you're getting. It's definitely a full body beer. So Doug, thanks for pointing that out. But yeah, it's it is a little bit unfortunate because I feel like I enjoy this cigar, and this might even be one of the few cigars of the Smoking Monk line that I would smoke on its own and just enjoy it for what it is.
Absolutely.
Because I was puffing on the cigar a little bit before I started sipping on the beers, and I liked it. It's a bit mild for me. I mean, they said it's medium to full. To me, it's more of a mild cigar. It's definitely more mild on the flavor as well. And it would be the kind of thing that I could, have in the morning, maybe not pair it with a cup of coffee, but just kind of smoke it on its own in the morning on the golf course or something like that. Although I feel like saying that you'd smoke a cigar on the golf course is almost like a negative thing. But to me, no matter what I'm doing, if I'm smoking a cigar, that cigar is the focal point. Granted, it's not the focal point when I'm teeing off, but other than that, I'm focused on the cigar. So that's not for me. That's not a negative thing.
I would totally agree with you, Rob. I think and I think that's praise. Like, this cigar is really meant to be paired, and yet for me, I think I agree that this cigar, not necessarily way above the other ones, but certainly more than the other ones, stands on its own better. So I think I'd be perfectly satisfied smoking if I wasn't giving them away. I'd be perfectly fine smoking this on its own.
Just so we got some a comment here from Dwight, and he says that Doug is correct. So the fact that the West Mall was originally brewed and put together to be enjoyed as a meal. That's why it's so heavy. That makes sense. I mean, you sipping on this thing, I mean, the belly gets kind of full. So I mean, I don't think you're getting your all your nutrients and hitting everything on the nutrient triangle that you're supposed to get when you eat, but I can see it definitely filling you up. You want to take a real quick question from the audience real quick?
Let's do it up. We love questions.
And then we'll move into our third one here. This was Dwight who just chimed in that said that Doug is correct. He says, question here from Dwight, and Dwight, thank you for tuning in, appreciate it. He says, not that I agree with it, he says, but I've heard that a lot of people comment that smoking a cigar ruins your palate to taste and enjoy a beer pairing. How would you counter that argument? Well, I've heard that too. And it could actually, I mean, you could really say it both ways. you could say that if you're drinking strong beer, that it's going to ruin your palate for the cigar. Excuse me, one quick second.
Yeah, so
These beers
sorry,
get a bit yeasty,
that's
yeah.
it's yeasty, man.
And I think I actually let the burp out before I muted, so I muted after I burped, which is nice. So
Okay.
you guys are all welcome to that. You know, I don't know if I could counteract that, or if I could counter that argument with facts, with scientific reasoning as to why
Science.
why certain things settle on your tongue and will allow you to taste certain flavors or whatever. Before we started doing this show, I was very hesitant to pair cigars with anything that's carbonated, just because I feel like the effervescence of a beer or a soda or anything like that, it really just kind of blows your palate out. But having done 26 shows, and several of them being about beer, I'm firmly on the bandwagon of pairing with beer, because for me it's fun. I enjoy doing it. It's two things that I'm passionate about. I love cigars. I love beer, and bringing those two together, I just get to be fat and happy. And I'm totally into it. Whether is your experience going to be different if you're just smoking the cigar and you're drinking water? Of course. Is your experience with the beer going to be different if you're just sipping on the beer and focusing on the flavors there and things of that nature? Of course it's going to be different. Do they impact each other? Absolutely. Do I think that it ruins either one? It can. Absolutely it can. If I'm smoking a Connecticut, an Oliva Connecticut, and I'm drinking a chocolate stout, it's going to ruin both of them. At least I would think it is. Or even better, if you're smoking that La Gloria Cubana Series R Esteli and drinking, what was it that I paired it with? Ginger ale. It's going to taste absolutely horrible. So yeah, you can ruin it. I mean, to me, it's all for fun. It's all for what we enjoy. So yeah, there's probably truth to it. I have no scientific argument, but I like doing it, so I'm going to keep doing it. And that was a really long-winded answer. So John, do you want to chime in or no?
Yeah, absolutely. And before I get into my answer, I just want to remind our live listeners and our podcast listeners that you're listening to Cigar Federation's Sharing Our Pairings, episode 26. That's right, we've got 26 episodes under our belts. The Smoking Monk of Esteli Belgian Triple, sponsored by Cigar.com. Appreciate you guys tuning in. Make sure to look for that phrase that pays if you're a podcast listener. We'll have some giveaways for you. Rob will have some giveaways. We'll figure that out at the end of the episode. So the question was, he's heard that a lot of people feel pairing beers and pairing cigars really blows out your palate. And I know where that comes from, because, in the whiskey world, whiskeys are supposed to stand on their own, and certainly we've had a lot of beers that are full-bodied beer, coat your palate, and might even blow your palate away for the night. Like you have one really full-bodied beer, and maybe you can't have another beer afterwards because you're not tasting right. But as you were kind of alluding to in the effervescence-ness, I just made up that word, of a beer. In some cases, we've actually found the opposite true, especially with the IPA show. We actually found that the beer refreshed the palate between draws. And
absolutely.
To be honest, I would not have expected that. If you'd told me that was the case, I'd nod my head, but I probably wouldn't believe you. But, we absolutely found that the IPAs were refreshing the palate. So in a lot of ways, they were allowing us to taste more of the cigar, because that sort of, that carbonation was just, taking your tongue and cleaning out the taste of the cigar afterwards. And you have to remember that, there's a whole lot of different range of cigars. You can have a cigar that's full-bodied. You can have a Connecticut wrapper. But yeah, absolutely, if you pair the wrong things together, it's going to blow your palate out. But I think the big overreaching statement I would have is, don't let that make you afraid to try stuff together. Rob wasn't afraid to try the La Gloria Cabana Serie R. It didn't work out.
I should have been.
He turned green. He was like, "Oh my God, this is no kidding. This is puke in a glass. I don't know what's going on." But he also found, I think it was the cream soda, creamy.
Absolutely.
It was awesome. And if you don't experiment, if you don't have fun with it, you're not going to find that out. And I think that's just part of the fun of this show for us is just trying out new stuff together and especially finding out we're wrong. It's the best kind of wrong.
Yeah, and it really did taste like bile when I paired those two.
Yeah,
But right
your
after
face
that,
turned green.
right after that, I busted out the cream soda, and I have revisited that on several occasions with that particular cigar and that particular cream soda. Um, we do a few shows here on Cigar Federation, and I'm lucky enough to
maybe more than anybody.
I'm lucky enough to be involved in 3 of them, and this is my favorite show, and it's not because Cigar Chat is our bread and butter. That's the show that's been around the longest. That's the show that we get more insight into the cigar industry. And we get the unique opportunity for our audience to ask questions of some of their favorite blenders. This is just me and John talking, and we're BSing and we're having fun. But to me, I enjoy this show the most because of the trial and error of it. And to have somebody tell me, well, you don't want to pair these two things together, it's going to blow out your palate, so just don't do it. I don't buy that. I just... If I'll try it, and if it tastes like vomit, then I won't do it again.
I almost take that as a challenge myself.
Yeah, exactly. Challenge accepted. So yeah, that's a long-winded answer. That's a good question, though. And if you would have asked me that question before I started doing the show, a year ago, I would have said no. I don't really like pairing with beer. But now it's like I'm in the at the liquor store, and I've picked out my triples that I need for the show, but now it's like I get to walk around and have fun. So what can I find? Oh, I found a Prairie Bomb. Oh, I'm going to pick that up. What am I going to pair with that? So it's like that to me is the fun part. Like now I look at beer in a totally different way. I went to Costco. Love Costco. And they've started getting craft beers in Costco, and you get the 22-ounce bottles, and they have some from Prohibition Ale, which is located in San Francisco. And it's their seasonal release, and I looked at it, and it's called the Black Hand, and it's a chocolate milk stout.
Oh yeah.
Now, why on earth would I not buy all of them?
Mm-hmm.
Well, because I'd have some splaining to do, but it was $4, $4.25. So I honestly picked up 6 of them.
I wouldn't even hesitate.
Yeah, and I've never even tasted it. I'm buying this blind, but I know at the very least, very least, I've got some cigars that I'll try and pair with this. If not, I'm going to find if the beer is good, then it's great. I don't even have to pair it, or I can, or whatever. So it's become fun for me. So I'm not one to let somebody tell me that, well, you can't pair this because it's not going to be good. I'll find out on my own.
Yeah. So that was a great question. Really appreciate your questions, and thank you very much. Do we have any other questions before we move on to our last beer?
We've got one from Bob Dog, but maybe we'll hit that one last before we close it.
So maybe I'll just hop right into it because the snow has abated. That's right. Check out that big linguistic dictionary on my head.
You took the SATs.
SATs? We don't have the SATs up here. I don't even know what I'm talking. What's an SAT? So my last beer tonight is from Cigar City Brewing, and I just kind of picked this up because my local guy, Kensington Wine Market, Sean is the beer guy there, great guy. I told him what he was doing. He kind of had a similar reaction to what your guy did. He kind of went, okay, you're pairing Belgian triples, huh? Okay, well, okay. And
all right.
I said, well, okay, well, you should try this. And he said, this is in that style. And so I'm trying it for the first time, but you look at it and you look at that head, look at the way it poured, and you go, okay, yeah, that's absolutely. I don't even need to taste it. I'm just looking at it, and I go, that's absolutely within the realm of what we're talking about. We're looking for something, light in color, sort of that. How would you describe that? Sort of cloudy ale color. Now this is, I can tell you, now I know the specs because I cheated and did my research, but I mean, this is, and I left this for last on purpose because this is a bit of a hoppy ale here. Oh, doggy! It is it is like if you took the Westmalle and you took a bunch of orange rind and just ground it up into the beer. I think you get kind of close. It's interesting. So this is the new Belgian Lips of Faith series from Cigar City Brewing. Cigar City Brewing out of Fort Collins, Colorado, founded by Jeff Lebesh. I'm sorry, Jeff, if I butchered your name. I'm sure you're not listening to our shows. It doesn't matter. Anyways, he was inspired by a trip to Belgium in 1989. Got really passionate about the Belgian style of ales. They commercialized in 1991. He hired a lady named Kim Jordan, who was their bottler, their sales rep, their distributor, and a bunch of other stuff, including marketing manager, etc. And Kim eventually became the CEO of the company, so good for her.
Wow.
And then I think what's cool about their story is that they're very into local community, so they literally took their neighbor, Ann Fitch, who is an artist, and she does all of their bottle art. She's the one that did their brand image, including the Fat Tire beer, which I think you've had and you said you really enjoyed. She was all over that. She came up with that idea. And then they hired a Belgian brewmaster, Peter, I'm going to butcher this and I apologize, it's Boucaret. Peter Boucaret, he's a Belgian brewmaster. He came over in 96. So they have a lot of history brewing, and obviously with Peter at the helm as the brewmaster, they know the Belgian style. This bad boy is 8.5% ABV. So again, these are not sissy beers. Now, they do list the IBUs because this is a 50 IBU. Now, if we're talking about IPAs, we would say it's kind of in the IPA category, but this is not a traditional Belgian triple. It's a different take on a Belgian triple. They use a beer de garde yeast. I don't know what that is, but maybe some of you beer nerds do. It is 220 calories per bottle, which is actually not bad when you consider that this bottle is a beast. And maybe it's the wrong bottle, but that seems too light to me. I would guesstimate that bottle at 440, 460. Tell me if any of these hops stand out to you, because I know that some of these stood out to me. They use Target hops, Centennial hops, Cascade, Pacific Jade, Wakatu, and Simcoe. And I mean, I recognize the Centennial and Simcoe for sure.
And what was there was one of them in there, Cascade.
Cascade,
it's
absolutely.
Really common, right?
Yeah.
But there was one that you said that was kind of fun. Read them again.
So it's Target, Centennial, Cascade, Pacific Jade, Wakatu, which I have to assume is Japanese.
That's the one that sounds fun.
And Simcoe, and then they use Pale and Keristan malts, pardon me. And then they list their fruits and spices, which we really appreciate the breweries doing the great detail here. It's good for us. Anaheim chili, Mirage chilies, and Spanish cedar spirals. So actual Spanish cedar.
Interesting. Maybe it goes back to the whole Cigar City name. I have no idea.
It's pretty tasty though. I mean, it's a fruit bomb. I mean, I'm tasting it's kind of a hoppy fruit bomb. It's good. While you talk, I'm going to relight my cigar because it's blowing like a banshee here, and we'll see if I can pick out some pairing notes.
So for my third, and this is the one that I picked up on my own, and based on the way that it tastes, you'd probably know if you were tasting all three of these. This one's from Victory. It's called the Golden Monkey. Victory Brewing out of Downingtown. That's Pennsylvania, right?
Mm-hmm. I don't know. I'm Canadian. I have no idea.
PA, is that Pennsylvania?
That's Pennsylvania.
Yeah. You're not even American, and you know that.
Yep. PA, son.
Damn foreigners.
Taking our curves.
This is, I mean, this one is much more of a golden, orange, amber color. Golden, take golden out of it. It's more of an amber color than the others. And right off the bat, I can smell it's fruity, and it's like a jammy fruit, like an apricot kind of. There's going to be that tartness there. There's almost even like my wife at Thanksgiving will make these. She'll make these carrots, and I'm more of a raw vegetable guy. Like I don't really like cooked carrots, but she'll cook them in this with some orange zest, and it kind of gets that. It's like a thicker orange smell. That's what I'm getting from this. It's a deeper fruit. Um, if I pull up the website here, gives a little bit of the information. It's got imported 2-row malts. The hops, whole flower European hops, and coriander seed. 9.5 alcohol by volume. They recommend that you pair it with sheep's milk and seafood. I can see the seafood. Sheep's milk cheese, I should say, not just sheep's milk. That would be gross.
Have you had sheep's milk or sheep's milk cheese before?
I don't think that I have. We do like the cheese, and I'm a big fan of cheese.
Ditto.
What freaks me out a little bit, like I don't really like goat cheese, and I would assume that sheep's milk cheese is probably similar to goat's milk cheese.
It's less gamey, but it does have a little bit of funk to it, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, I mean I like a big stinky cheese. Like give me a Stilton, or if
big old brie.
Or yeah, or just like a triple cream brie. Forget about it. That's just like butter.
Forget about it.
But this is definitely different. It's much more malty on the nose, and it's a lot. There's big malty flavors to it that are. It's a departure from these other two. It's still a triple Belgian, but it's got those fruit notes, that kind of jammy apricot in there, and that it's much more malty. I mean, you know what I'm talking about when I say that it's malty. It's
a caramel, thick,
it's
sweet,
it's just
toasty.
Yeah. Exactly, and it's more it's full-bodied. Oddly enough, I did these in the exact right order, which I basically just based it on looks. But
pairing expert friends.
Yeah. That's we're giving you a peek behind the curtain. We just look at them and guess. But the pairing with the cigar, oddly enough, this is a full-bodied beer for me. There's a bunch of flavors in there, but that fruit is really bringing out the spicy notes in the cigar. So the cigar got really spicy for me. On the retrohale, there's a ton of spice now that wasn't there before. So this kind of goes back to Dwight's question of, is it, some people say don't pair things, but absolutely pair it, because you're going to get a different experience. I mean, I wasn't getting much spice from this cigar at all, and now that I'm pairing it with this particular beer, that spice has really come to the forefront. There's still that vanilla that's in there, but it's much more muted now. And the spice, compare that with, or pairs really well with the malty and fruitiness of this beer. This might be my favorite pairing, and I did it on accident.
So what's really funny about that is that we have, I would say, similar beers in terms of full-bodied, full strength, maybe on different parts of the flavor map, and yet I'm getting a very similar experience. That is, all of a sudden, I'm getting just, for me, a blast, like an absolute blast of white pepper, like a huge, almost a nutmeg through the retrohale. So to me, we're going complementary, I think, with the first two beers, the Fin de Mont and the West Mall. And again, the West Mall, I think, maybe ran over the cigar a little bit. These are contrasting, and normally, we'd say contrasting is a fun experience and a fun experiment, but you're probably going to end up disappointed. This is kind of fun. I mean, I wouldn't say it's the best pairing. I think so far I'd say hands down, Le Fin de Mont is my favorite pairing of the night. Windy, and but this is the funnest pairing, maybe the funnest pairing I've done so far, because this new Belgian is, it is hoppy, but it's not too hoppy. The fruit of it offsets the IPA really well, so it ends up being a bit of a spicy fruit bomb, and does bring out a bunch of character in the cigar that I wasn't otherwise picking up.
Yeah, it's the more that I get into this pairing, and if this is the first time that you've tuned in to our show, it's not always the last pairing that we get is the best because we've had enough to drink where we're just kind of like, hey, no. This, for me, it's usually, honestly, I think if we go back, I've never really gone back and looked, but I'd be curious to see if there is any correlation between, I'm saying that there isn't, but maybe there is. The pairing here, is really, really interesting. It makes me want to come back for more. I want to come back and I want to take a puff off the cigar. I'm not getting a lot of flavors on the tongue from the cigar because I think the beer is kind of wrecking that part of the palate, and the palate's wrecked to begin with. But the flavor that I'm getting from the retrohale of the cigar is totally different than what I was getting before. That nuttiness is still there. That buttery texture that I was getting is completely gone. There's a spice that it's a bright kind of, I mean, there is no such thing as a white pepper, but there is kind of a white pepper spice, and it's more heat than flavor, I guess, on the retrohale that really just offsets the maltiness and the fruitiness of this beer, and it just balances the whole thing out for me. I mean, you take a sip of the beer, you get that malty flavor, you get that that kind of jammy apricot in there, and a little bit of citrus on there, and then you take a puff of the cigar, and you finish it off with that that bright spice on the retro that really kind of cleans everything out, and you're ready for the next one. And it's like I want to keep going. So can you give a higher compliment to a pairing where it's like I want to keep doing it, right? I mean, that's about as good as it gets.
Yeah, I mean that's ultimately, I think, whether it's complementary, contrasting, or opposite sides of the spectrum, really that's what you're going for. If you're enjoying it and you want to keep going, then really I think you found your winner. For me, no question, the Le Fin de Mont from Unibrow is the winner of the night, and that's the first beer I had. And that's interesting because, Westmalle again is the originator, the big mother of Belgian triples, and it is a great beer. Right? If you have a chance to try Westmalle, if you like a full-bodied Belgian ale, you really can't go wrong. You would be doing yourself a disservice to not pick up a couple bottles because it's fantastic. I'm sure it ages really well because of the double fermentation in the bottle. In fact, now that I think about it, I'll probably go back and get some more myself. But in terms of pairing, the Le Fin de Mont is a no-brainer for me, hands down the winner. Go with the New Belgian Lips of Faith series from Cigar City Brewing if you want to try something a little bit different. A lot of fun on the beer. I might actually go with and this is going way out there. I might actually go with something super full-bodied and spicy just to have a little bit of fun. So I might find myself going with maybe something from Nomad or Crown Heads. And just seeing where I land, because I think the New Belgium is just a full-bodied beer that needs something a little bit different to pair with.
I would agree. I think it would almost be fun, and it would be hard for us to do this, but to have one particular beer and then try to pair it with 3 different cigars to totally take the show and flip it. I don't know if we could do that. I think
why not? We can do whatever we want. We make our own. I am the MFN CEO.
Yeah,
the sharing our pairings. So we can do whatever we want. Yeah, so sponsored by us.
So I have a question, and this might be a silly question. Was I muted when I was talking a second ago about how I enjoyed this pairing?
No, not at all.
Okay, good. Because I had a question from Bob was saying, now he's saying no, it was him. Okay, good, because I looked up and I was actually muted, but I think I muted myself because I wanted to relight my cigar. One comment that I want to make, though, and I think this goes back to Dwight's question, and I think I'm going to pick Dwight as one of my winners because his question keeps coming up. This is my favorite pairing of the night, absolutely, with the Victory Golden Monkey and the Smoky Monk of Esteli Triple Belgian, but I would say if I was drinking these beers on their own, the Triple Monkey would be my least favorite of the 3.
Interesting. What would be your favorite?
The Triple Carmelet.
Okay.
Absolutely. I can see myself going back, and I mean it wasn't cheap for was this 12 ounce bottle? Oh, sorry, 11.2. 11.2 ounce bottle. It was about $6. So that comes out to what? Like a $40 6-pack? Or $36 6-pack, $40 after tax probably. Am I gonna load up on it? No, but it's the kind of thing where I could see myself having 1 or 2, rolling around the beer fridge when I make some room. I'm gonna have to upgrade my beer fridge, by the way.
Oh yeah.
I'm running out of space, man.
You need that 32 bottle.
It's there's a lot of beer in there, and we'll get into that later. But yeah, of the three beers, this is probably I enjoy it. It's definitely different, but I think I enjoyed the triple Carmelet the best on its own. But this pairing with the Golden Monkey and were you a friend or a fan of the show Friends?
Oh, of course, man. I mean, I'm 179 years old, so I grew up with Friends,
So
and it was fantastic.
so when I say Golden Monkey, do you remember when Joey was going to be the game show host of Bamboozled?
Mm.
I don't remember. This was one of the later episodes, but it was one of the things where you go up, you climb the ladder to get to the Golden Monkey, and pull his tail or something. So that's what I always think of when I see Golden, and that was half of the reason that I picked up the bottle because it was Golden Monkey. I love that show. I'm a big fan of Friends. If you're on Netflix, I think they've just added all the seasons. Great show. Especially I think I was a little bit young for the show when it came out, but it resonates a little bit more with me now because I'm the age that they were for the most part. So there's an extra a reason for me. And somebody on Cigar Federation is always pumping Victory beers, and I think it's Jared Garrett, or Grillet, sorry, who's always pumping the Victory beer. And I actually had one of their, I think it was a porter that was brewed with chocolate nibs. I tried that recently. It was pretty good. So. Yeah, that's my favorite pairing of the night, man.
Nice. So I'm gonna flip it around because this is our fifth and last in the sponsored series from Cigar.com. Thanks very much for Cigar.com for sponsoring us for this 5 series. It's been fun. There's a lot of beer, and we did take a break with our Japanese whiskey show. If you haven't tuned in to that, check it out because we had a lot of fun. And we're gonna switch it up for the next few shows. We're gonna go back to whiskey and do some dram cigar pairing, but we do appreciate Cigar.com sponsoring us. So reflecting back on our 5-show series, I would have to say that I went into it expecting the Stout Show to be my favorite, and I would say it was a distant second. The weird thing is that the IPA show was like not only the winner, but the hands-down winner. It wasn't even close. The cigar was great, the pairing was great, the IPAs were great, and I expected that to be the worst. Is that because of my expectations? I don't know, but by far my best show, and I would have to give it to the Belgian Triple as being the sort of best on its own cigar, because I feel like of all the cigars in this series, this cigar stands on its own the best. So you could probably enjoy this paired for sure, but I think you definitely enjoy it by itself, no question.
Absolutely, I will. And I didn't even know we were going to do this, but I will 100%. I will echo your sentiments. The IPA was my favorite, and I refuse to believe that it was an expectation thing. I drank some good IPAs that day, and just the cigar paired well with all of them, and it just stunned me a little bit. The one that disappointed me the most, we can get a little bit negative here, was the porter.
Me too.
I think that was the first show that we did was the porter, and I just didn't. I didn't really get it. I didn't. The cigar didn't do much for me. It didn't pair well with the cigars, or with the with the beers.
5%, ladies and gentlemen.
No kidding. If I had to rank them in order, I would go. IPA was my favorite. Second would probably be a tie between Hefeweizen and the Imperial Stout.
Yep.
Then Triple Belgian, and then the porter.
Yeah.
And to say that Triple Belgian, I'm enjoying this. I've enjoyed all the pairings except for the West Mall. I didn't really feel it, but the pairing with the Triple Carmelet, the pairing with Golden Monkey, I will definitely revisit these. So to say that was my second to least favorite puts this into perspective. And I know that these are sponsored shows, and it gets a little bit QVC-ish, but if you guys go to the site, and I don't know how much longer, I imagine this deal is going to be available for the rest of the week until we post, or next 2 weeks, I guess, until we post our next show. But there's a link there on the Sharing Our Pairings page. It takes you to a special page. It's the only way you can get to it. The Smoky Monk Tester Pack. You get one of each, 5 cigars for $30, and it's free shipping.
Free shipping.
So I mean, if you like beer and you're interested in pairing, then I mean it's kind of a no-brainer. I mean, $30 you can throw it out there. I mean, as long as it fits into your budget, you're going to get definitely enough enjoyment out of this to justify that cost. I mean, I would even pick up a couple if you've got the means to do so, and just have some fun with it. You know, pick up one for you and pick up one for your buddy, and just kind of hang out and do it. And that's 5 Saturdays where you guys can sit around, or Sundays when football season starts, or whatever, and just kind of have fun with it. So, you know, I would. I mean, to me, it's a no-brainer, but you know, do what you want to do. But I think if you're tuning into this show, you're definitely interested in pairing some stuff. So they're worth it. If you're going to pick up these cigars and smoke them on their own and judge them that way and say that, oh, well, this cigar sucks because it doesn't taste good by itself, they're not meant to be enjoyed by themselves. They're meant to be paired. So it's, you know, we do a lot of we're starting to do a lot of stuff with pipes, and this makes sense, I promise. I've read some pipe reviews where it's guys who like to smoke English blends and Virginia blends, and they come in and they give a review of an aromatic, and they give it 1 star because, oh, it's horrible, it tastes like candy, this, that, and the other. Well, if you know it's an aromatic, you know in the description it says it's going to taste like maple syrup, and it's going to taste like chocolate, and it's going to taste like rum. Why would you smoke it if you know that you like other things?
Yep.
You know what I'm saying? So if you're going into this and you're interested in trying to pair some out and have fun with it, then it's definitely worth your money. If you want to buy them and judge the cigars on merits on their own, just as a cigar as a standalone piece, then I would say don't bother.
And I mean, and obviously we're on this, and it's, you know, it's funny because we definitely have a Venn diagram that overlaps for a lot of cigars, but Rob and I have pretty different palates in terms of cigars and in some cases beers. And the interesting thing is the overlap is definitely when it comes to stouts. And again, you know, surprise to us was that the stout show wasn't the clear, overwhelming winner. So, yeah, you know, I think that should be a good takeaway for our listeners, that don't be afraid to try new stuff, because we tried the IPA, not expecting much, and that was a pairing that we're going to revisit for sure in the future. Appreciate everyone that's tuned in for the last 5 episodes. Again, tune in at our special time next Tuesday. I know we've done a lot of pairing shows lately, so if you haven't caught them all, that's okay. We've got our back episodes on YouTube. We've got our podcast up on iTunes and Podbean. But we're going to be doing something a little bit different. We're going to be switching completely from beer to whiskey. We've got some really cool stuff where we're going to be doing essentially the entire range of whiskey from sort of light, delicate, all the way up to Islay. And we're going to kick it off with the Dram Cigar 1 on Tuesday at a regular time, presumably 8 p.m. Eastern Standard. We might end up running a little bit later than a normal start time, so bear with us if we do. We're having to juggle schedules a little bit. This is the season where we all have a little bit going on. But again, we really appreciate you guys sticking with us, and we appreciate Cigar.com for sponsoring us, and of course Drew Estate for blending these cigars, because you know it's been a lot of fun.
Yeah, next week we should start on time. Moving forward with some of the Wednesday shows, guys. Wednesdays there's a lot of day games, and I'm at the ballpark, so it may turn out where we start an hour later on some of the live shows, but we'll keep you guys updated with that. And Dram Cigars, DRAMcigars.com, if you want to check out their website. It's just one page, but it gives you a really succinct breakdown of, you know, the cigars that we're going to be smoking and the types of whiskeys that we're going to be pairing with it. So it's pretty exciting stuff. We do have one more question from Bob Dog. Do you want to take it?
Let's do it up.
It's a little bit off topic, but we'll jump in anyway. He says, I've read a lot of reviews that recommend a stronger cigar to pair with a stout. Bob likes his stouts. Now, if you follow Bob at all, if you're friends with Bob on Facebook, Bob has a really nice beard that he's just trimmed up, and he does love his stouts. So he says, do you believe that a strong cigar is the best pairing for a stout? Now, when I'm going to assume that he's talking about strength of flavor, because I don't necessarily believe that the strength of the cigar impacts the flavor much at all. But maybe that's just me. With the stout that you're pairing, it's going to depend. This is my take anyway. It's going to depend on the type of stout that you're pairing it with and the goal that you want to have. Like, for example, if you're going to pair with a chocolate stout, and I go back to this pairing a lot because I did it on one of our cigar chat shows when we had Casada cigars on. I paired the Casada Keg, which is it's a stronger cigar, and I think it's got a San Andreas wrapper on it. It's either San Andreas or Connecticut Broadleaf. I'm pretty sure it's San Andreas. And I paired that with a high water campfire stout. And high water is out of California, and the campfire stout, they called it that because the stout tastes like s'mores. And I mean, legit tastes like chocolate and marshmallow, and there's a little bit of graham cracker flavor in there. It's absolutely dessert in a bottle. I freaking love it. But the cigar had some spice to it. It wasn't very sweet, and so they kind of, the juxtaposition of flavors, which I know I say that a lot, but I think that's really what we're talking about here when we're talking about pairing things, is you want to find things that live in their own place, but when you put them together, they're not butting heads and they're not walking away from each other. They're kind of walking hand in hand, and that juxtaposition of flavor between those two cigars was perfect. Absolutely loved it. So for me, if I'm going with a sweeter stout, a chocolate stout, a milk stout, something like that, I'm going to go with a cigar that's got some spice to it. If I'm going with an imperial stout that's kind of a bigger, bolder coffee flavor, maybe I want something that's got a little bit more sweetness in there as well. That's just me personally. What do you think, John?
You know what? I think, I mean, we've done 26 episodes. I don't know if we're experts yet, but we're certainly learning a lot about pairing. And I would wholeheartedly agree that if you pair a chocolatey cigar with a chocolate stout, the problem is you're not going to get the individual flavors, the individual character of the cigar in the stout. And there are a lot of stouts out there. We've talked about it on our past stout shows where you've got oatmeal stouts, which, I think Rob and I, if we were anywhere near each other, we'd be like going out 4 days a night or 4 days a week, drinking oatmeal stouts, getting just fat. We'd be single in like 6 months. It'd be nasty. But if you're going to pair an oatmeal stout, which has kind of got a little bit of bitterness to it, a little bit of loses a little bit of sweetness to it, then you need a full-bodied cigar that's maybe a little bit more balanced. Whereas, as Rob was talking about, if you're going with a chocolate stout, you want something with a Maduro, a Connecticut broadleaf, or a San Andreas Maduro, because you want a little bit of spice, you want a little bit of pepper to cut through that sweetness. If you don't, the stout is going to run over that cigar. So there's a lot of stouts out there. There's Russian Imperial stouts, there's oatmeal stouts, there's oyster stouts. So definitely look at the type of stout you enjoy, and then try to find something that complements it on the flavor map. I think for us, again, we were kind of going to these shows expecting the stout show to be the best. It wasn't, but that doesn't mean we're going to not revisit it in the future, because we've done a general stout show, we've done a stout pairing show with the Drew Estate Smoking Monk Imperial Stout. What we're probably going to do in the future is hone down a little bit maybe and just do an oatmeal stout show, or maybe do an oyster stout show, just because it's crazy and wild. But I think that the takeaway there, Bob, my long-winded answer is make sure you're pairing the right stout with the right cigar, because if you're not, it might be a disappointing experience for you.
Yeah, I would agree. I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to pick Bob as one of my winners too. I know Bob's won on Cigar Chat recently too, but I think, and I can't promise this, Bob, but I'm pretty sure I have another one of the Smoky Monk Imperial Stouts, and I want to send one of those to you. So, because I know you like your stouts, so I want to make sure that you get a chance to try it. But that doesn't mean that you shouldn't go buy a 5-pack too. We did get one more question that just popped up. Nice. I know we're running a little bit over. Are you okay with taking it?
Buddy, like, it's sharing our pairings, and here on sharing our pairings, we'll go 3 hours if we need to. If you guys, and this is really key to our podcast listeners, I know you guys are out there in droves. I see your downloads. There's hundreds and hundreds of you. Please give us your questions. We'd love to take them. I will answer your questions all night long until I'm blue in the face, literally.
Yeah, and you're pretty close because it's still snowing over there.
Oh, yeah.
It's still 70 degrees, so I'm fine. So this question is from DLM04E. And that's I can't even try to make that into.
Oh, it's Demo.
It's from Demo.
It's Devin out of Florida.
Oh, okay, well that's good that you know him, because I was going to try to make a name out of it, because sometimes you get those screen names and you try to make them into an acronym or something. But DL, well, I guess it's Demo. I don't know. Demo. Anyway, I think this is a good question, given that this is our last Smoky Monk episode. and it might not be our last. We might revisit. Maybe we revisit the IPA episode because I think we both would like to do that.
Hell yeah.
And maybe the stout episode if I still have enough left. He says, do you think that any of the cigars that in this series would go well with a different beer type? So I think what he's asking is, do you think that maybe the IPA would go well with a Belgian, or the Imperial Stout would go well with a Porter, something like that? That's an interesting question, and since I've been talking about it, you've had a little bit of time to think about it, so I'm going to let you answer first.
Well, so it's interesting he focuses on beer, not whiskey, because I was thinking about this the other day when I was kind of going through and nosing the IPA, the Belgian, or the Smoking Monk IPA, and I think I even might have mentioned it during the show that I thought that would be a great cigar with an Islay whiskey. Now, if you talk about pairing with a different beer, I'd say that, and I think what we're really talking about, the word we want to use here is versatility. I would say that the Hefeweizen is probably one of the most versatile cigars, and I think we talked a little bit about that on the episode where we were talking about different wrapper types it might go well with, because it was kind of a catch-all cigar. That is, it wasn't a medium-bodied, medium full-bodied, so you could probably get away with pairing it with a couple different types of cigars. Maybe some Viaje, maybe some Illusionary. Oh my God, how much beer have you had? I've had a lot. So the Hefeweizen, I think, is pretty versatile. I'd like to revisit the Porter because I feel like, the pairing underwhelmed a little bit, and I wouldn't, we're all about experimentation. So I guess to succinctly answer his question, Hefeweizen, yes. The IPA with whiskey, and the Porter, maybe just to have some fun with it.
It's funny. I'm glad that I let you answer first because you picked all the ones that I don't want to talk about.
Very good.
The one that I think that would benefit from maybe pairing with a few different beers is the Imperial Stout. The flavors that I got from that Imperial Stout, and granted, the Imperial Stout paired with the oh man, what was it? The Old Rasputin, which I don't think we did on the show.
No,
but that
was your review, right?
That was the pairing I did for my review, and that was one of the suggested pairings. That was great. So maybe that might be my favorite pairing of all of them that I've done. So that maybe changes things a little bit. But I wonder if the Imperial Stout, the way that that's blended, and if let's say you pick up a 5-pack, smoke one of them on its own, and you'll know what I'm talking about. There's some flavors in there that are really interesting, and I wonder if that would pair with some of those other beers out there that aren't necessarily like Imperial Stouts. There's one that comes to mind, and I don't necessarily know the type of blend it is or a type of brew it is from 21st Amendment called Monk's Blood. I love the beer on its own. It's dark, it's big, it's heavy. It's not a stout. I don't have any, so I can't really reference it right now. But I'm wondering if that pairing might work, or like a double. And it's a Belgian doubles that are really dark, right?
Yeah, and I think the Monk's Blood was just a Belgian style ale. Like, it was just a really full-bodied ale.
So I wonder if that pairing, because there's some double ales that I've picked up locally. One from Black Diamond that's called the Double Down, and they spell it D-U-B-B-L-E, a very cute turn of phrase. But it's a really good beer, and it's creamy. It's got some kind of those like heavy date type flavor notes that you're going to want to drink like in the fall and winter. But I'm wondering if that might pair really well with the Imperial Stout and kind of balance each other out. So I think that you could get a little bit weird with that, because there are dark beers out there, there are heavy beers out there that aren't stouts that I think you could play around with and pair with that as well. So that's a really good question. That was Demo, you said, from Florida?
Yeah. Devin from Florida, yeah.
Devin, yeah. So Devin, thank you for the question. That's a good question. I mean, you mentioned a few. I'm wondering if this Belgian triple would pair well with maybe like a Hefeweizen or something like that. I don't know. It might be kind of funky, but I mean, the best thing is pick up a couple of the samplers and just kind of screw around with it.
Yeah, just screw around, let us know.
And I wonder if the porter might pair a little bit with a stout or something like that too.
Could be. Well, again, thanks very much for everyone for tuning in. Make sure to tune in tomorrow night. That's Thursday, April 2nd at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We're going to have James Brown from Black Label Trading Company on. We haven't talked to him in a long time. We last saw him like 8 months ago at the IPCPR. So pretty awesome to have him on the show. I'm going to be guest co-hosting, so that's going to be a complete gong show. Worth tuning in just to watch the hilarity ensue. Again, thanks very much for everyone for tuning in for our 5-show series. Make sure to tune in next Tuesday at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for some whiskey pairing. I know we got some whiskey lovers out there.
Absolutely.
And as we always say,
but before you do your catchphrase, I've picked 2 winners tonight.
2 winners.
And I've announced them already, but I didn't tell them how to get in touch with me. So Bob Dog and Dwight Ricard. I'm going to go with Ricard, like Captain Picard, but Ricard. You guys have to email me. You guys are my winners. Email me, rob@cigarfederation.com, and put Sharing Our Pairing Monk's winner in the subject line. Give me your total mailing address, full name mailing address, and I'll get some prizes out to you guys. And actually, give me your shirt size, too. I've got some shirts. They're not on the larger size. They're more like large XLs. So give me your shirt size if you're a large or an XL, and I might be able to throw something like that in there. They're not Smoking Monk shirts, but they're different, cigar company shirts. That I'm going to include with you guys if they fit. So those are my 2 winners. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt, but yeah, John, thank you for covering me on Cigar Chat tomorrow with Black Label. It's funny, we've had Black Label on twice, and I haven't been able to do either show.
Well, and we kind of touched on this briefly. I mean, we're getting into, even though you can't tell from the snow, but we're getting into the time of year where, we all got a ton of stuff going on. I'm going to be taking off to Mexico pretty soon. You and Logan are going to be... Yeah, I'm going to be taking off to Mexico. You guys are taking off to Esteli to check out the Cigar Safari with Drew Estate, son.
So we may or may not, because we're going to be down there on a Thursday. Mm-hmm. So we may or may not do a Cigar Chat live from Esteli. We're trying to work out the logistics on that. I think that'd be a lot of fun.
That would
just to kind of let you guys, Logan and I can be sitting by the pool and just kind of hanging out. And make you all really, really jealous, really, is what it would be. It was just, we're going to sit here and look at how awesome everything is for us, and you guys are all at home.
Hell yeah.
Does that mean? I think there's still
one spot. One spot.
So if you're interested in going on the Cigar Safari or Cigar Federation Safari trip, email me at rob@cigarfederation.com. I can get you all the information, or email Logan at cigarfederation.com. We're still holding out hope that John is going to pull off a miracle and be able to join us, but I don't think it's going to happen. So I'm going to stop holding my breath. But I mean, I'm looking at Bob Dog. Bob, there's a spot open. I'm looking at some of the people who are watching. Dwight,
May 13th to 16th.
You could make it happen. So there's one spot available. I think.
That's what I've also been told. There's one spot remaining, and the trip is May 13th to 16th, flying to Managua, Nicaragua, and then it's all expenses.
It's worth every penny. If you've never done it, it will. I was lucky enough to go on a trip in 2013. Logan went last year. This time, Logan and I are going to be there together, so it's like you can watch Logan and I choke each other out in the pool. It's going to be fun. But it will change your cigar smoking life. It really will. And the guys at Drew Estate, it really is like it's an all-inclusive resort. I mean,
yep.
And the best thing is you can smoke all the cigars you want. They've got Ligas, they've got Herrera Esteli, they've got this Norteño, the Hoyas. I like to have a Tabac Red Eye with breakfast. I know you like those Tabacs with breakfast.
With the coffee, absolutely.
We're going to do some blending. It's going to be an absolutely awesome trip. It's going to be a ton of fun, and it's all with a bunch of fed heads, so it's going to be a great trip. If it fits into your budget, shoot us an email and we can squeeze you in on that trip.
There you go. So Rob at cigarfederation.com if you want to go to Drew Estate, and I know you do, in Nicaragua. Thanks very much, everyone, for tuning in. For our live listeners, our podcast listeners, make sure you get that phrase that pays. Email me at john@cigarfederation.com. We'll do a draw live on Tuesday during our whiskey show. As we always say, we want you guys to drink better, drink less. Thanks for tuning in.
Thanks, guys.
Stopping.